The Grand Council chamber of the Galactic Medical Summit gleamed with soft blue light. Representatives from 40 different species sat in curved rows, their varied forms creating a tapestry of the galaxy's diversity. At the center platform stood Queen Velzara of the Xathiri Empire, and everyone could see that something was terribly wrong. The Queen's crimson scales, usually polished to mirror brightness, looked dull. Her forearms trembled slightly as she held a data crystal. Most shocking of all, her proud head was bowed, something no one had ever witnessed from a Xathiri ruler. "Please," she said, and that single word sent whispers through the assembly. The Xathiri never begged. "My bonded companion is dying." The holographic display activated, showing a creature that made several delegates gasp. Kirnath was massive even by dragon standards, nearly 200 meters from nose to tail. His scales were deep black, with veins of gold running through them. Even in the medical scan, unconscious and clearly suffering, the dragon radiated power. "This is Kirnath," Queen Velzara continued. "He has been my bondmate for 70 years. 3 weeks ago, he was injured in an asteroid mining accident. A crystalline formation pierced his wing. We thought it a simple wound, but..." The image zoomed closer. Beneath the dragon's scales, branching crystal growths spread like frozen lightning. They glowed with an eerie purple light, extending from the original wound site throughout the dragon's wing and creeping toward his chest. "The crystals are growing. They cause him constant pain. Our healers cannot stop them. He grows weaker each day. If they reach his heart..." The Queen's voice cracked. "I am asking for your help." Chancellor Morton of the Velix Consortium spoke first. "Your Majesty, we sympathize, but war dragons are complicated. Kirnath is registered as a Class 5 biological weapon. Even sedated, he is incredibly dangerous. I understand the risks," Queen Velzara said. "He remains in stasis aboard my flagship in orbit. I am only asking you to examine him, to find a cure." Over the next hours, the galaxy's finest healers reviewed the medical data. The Velex brought their crystalline specialists. The Morlathi offered their genetic experts. The Thrin contributed their viral databases. One by one, they all reached the same conclusion. "The infection is too advanced," announced Dr. Kelmar, a Velex physician with 3 centuries of experience. "To remove these crystals would require surgery while the subject is awake. The sedation is the only thing keeping his defensive systems from activating." "Then wake him," the Queen said. "I will be there. He trusts me." "Your Majesty," Dr. Kelmar's skin flashed yellow with distress. "If Kirnath feels pain during the procedure, his body will react instinctively. One burst of plasma breath in a medical bay would kill everyone present. The risk is unacceptable." More experts presented similar findings. The surgery was theoretically possible, but practically impossible. No one would attempt it. The political undertones weren't subtle either. The Morlathi delegation reminded everyone that the Xathiri Empire had conquered 12 systems before joining the Galactic Council. The Thrin pointed out that Kirnath himself had destroyed 3 of their defensive stations during those wars. "So you will let him die because of old conflicts?" Queen Velzara's eyes blazed. "My empire has been peaceful for 40 years. "It is not about politics," Chancellor Morten said gently. "It is about protecting the lives of our healers. We simply cannot risk it." As the session ended, Queen Velzara stood alone at the platform. Her proud shoulders sagged. For the first time in her long reign, she had failed someone she loved. In the back row of the observation deck, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the proceedings with growing frustration. She was only here as an Earth observer. Humanity was still new to the Galactic Council. Her credentials as a veterinarian meant nothing compared to these legendary healers. But something about the scans bothered her. Sarah had spent 15 years treating animals on Earth. She'd worked with everything from injured sparrows to aggressive lions. That crystalline growth pattern looked familiar somehow. She pulled out her tablet and began searching her own medical databases. Birds, she thought. Something about birds, with fungal infections. The branching pattern. The way it followed, the blood vessels. That's it, she whispered. She stood up, her heart pounding. Everyone was leaving. The queen stood alone, staring at the image of her dying dragon. Sarah walked down the steps, her footsteps echoing in the emptying chamber. Several delegates glanced at her curiously. Humans were still a novelty at these events. Your Majesty? Sarah's voice seemed tiny in the vast space. Queen Velzara turned. Up close, she was even more impressive. Nearly 3 meters tall, with eyes like molten gold. Yes. Human? I'd like to see the complete medical files on Kirnath, all of them. The Queen's expression didn't change. Why? So you can also tell me nothing can be done? No, Sarah said firmly. Because I think I know what's wrong with him. Silence filled the chamber. Chancellor Morton, who hadn't yet left, turned around. Dr. Chen, with respect, you're a veterinarian. This is a xenobiological crisis beyond. She can look at the files, Queen Velzara interrupted. Her golden eyes studied Sarah. What is your name, human? Sarah. Dr. Sarah Chen. Very well, Dr. Chen. I have nothing left to lose. The Queen transferred the data crystal to Sarah's tablet. My flagship is in orbit. If you find something the galaxy's greatest healers missed, contact me immediately. Sarah took the crystal with trembling hands. I will, Your Majesty. I promise. As the Queen left, Chancellor Morton approached Sarah. You do understand what you're dealing with? Kirnath could destroy this entire station with a single breath. Sarah looked at the hologram still floating above the platform, the mighty dragon, suffering and alone. I understand, she said quietly. But he's still someone's family. And no one should die alone because everyone was too afraid to help. She returned to her quarters and began the long night of research that would change everything. Sarah didn't sleep that night. Her small quarters aboard the station were littered with holographic displays showing Kirnath's scans from every angle. Coffee cups accumulated on her desk as the hours passed. The crystalline infection was beautiful in a terrible way. Purple branches spread through the dragon's wing membrane like frozen lightning. But Sarah wasn't looking at it like a xenobiologist would. She was looking at it like a veterinarian who'd spent years treating sick animals on Earth. Come on, she muttered to herself, scrolling through her own medical database. I've seen this pattern before. I know I have. At 3 in the morning, she found it. A case from 6 years ago, a golden eagle brought to her clinic with a fungal infection. The growth pattern was nearly identical. The fungus had entered through a wound and spread through the bird's wing, following blood vessels in branching patterns. Sarah's hands shook as she compared the images. The structures were remarkably similar. Everyone had been looking for exotic alien pathogens, advanced viral weapons, or unknown cosmic diseases. No one had considered something simple, something biological and ancient. She ran the Jathri crystal samples through a basic organic analysis. The results made her sit back, in shock. It was alive, not a mineral formation at all, but a parasitic organism that crystallized as it grew. It fed on the host's energy, mimicking crystal structures to avoid immune responses. And just like the fungus that infected birds on Earth, it was treatable if caught in time. But there was a problem. A big one. The treatment required removing the organisms while the host's immune system was active. The sedation keeping Kirnath unconscious was also suppressing his body's natural defenses. That's why the infection kept spreading. His own immune system couldn't fight back while he was asleep. Sarah drafted her report as the station's artificial dawn began glowing through her window. Her conclusion was clear, but terrifying. Kirnath needed surgery while awake. The emergency council session convened at noon. Sarah stood at the central platform, her human form dwarfed by the alien delegates surrounding her. Queen Velzara sat in the front row, hope and desperation warring in her golden eyes. Dr. Chen, Chancellor Morton said carefully, "Please present your findings." Sarah activated the display. The infection isn't a crystal formation. It's a parasitic organism, similar to fungal infections found on Earth. It crystallizes as a defense mechanism, but it's biological and treatable. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. Dr. Kelmar leaned forward. Treatable how? Surgical removal combined with antifungal agents. I've modified medications we use on Earth to match Kirnath's biology. The parasites can be eliminated. But? Queen Velzara asked, hearing the hesitation in Sarah's voice. But the surgery must be performed while Kirnath is awake. The sedation is preventing his immune system from functioning. That's why the infection keeps spreading. His body can't fight back while he's unconscious. The chamber erupted in protests. Absolutely not. Dr. Kelmar's skin flashed red. An awake war dragon during surgery? One moment of pain, and everyone dies. The human doesn't understand what she's suggesting. Another delegate said, Kirnath's defensive reflexes are automatic. Even the queen cannot control them if he's in agony. Sarah stood firm. I understand the danger, but if we do nothing, he dies anyway. This is his only chance. Chancellor Morton spoke gravely. Dr. Chen, even if your diagnosis is correct, and I admit, it's compelling no surgeon in this galaxy would attempt this procedure. The risk is too great. Then I'll do it, Sarah said quietly. Silence fell over the chamber. You? Dr. Kelmar stared at her. You're not even a xenobiologist. You're a veterinarian for Earth animals. Yes, Sarah agreed. And I've performed hundreds of surgeries on frightened, injured animals. Animals that could hurt me if they panicked. I'm still here. A frightened dog is not a war dragon, someone shouted. The principle is the same, Sarah said firmly. Pain and fear make any creature dangerous. But trust can overcome both. I need to establish that trust first. Queen Velzara stood, her full height commanding attention. What are you proposing, Dr. Chen? Sarah met her gaze. Let me meet Kirnath. Let me spend time with him, before any surgery. If I can gain his trust, if he understands I'm trying to help, his defensive reflexes won't trigger. That's impossible, Dr. Kelmar said flatly. War dragons bond with one person. Their rider. Kirnath has never tolerated anyone, except the queen. He certainly won't trust a strange alien from an unknown species. Maybe not, Sarah admitted. But I'd like to try. What other option do we have? Queen Velzara was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. Dr. Chen, if Kirnath kills you, it will be blamed on my empire. It could destroy the fragile peace we've built. Then make sure everyone knows I volunteered, Sarah said. That I understood the risks. Your Majesty, he's suffering. Every day those crystals spread. He's in more pain. I can help him, but I need time to show him I'm not a threat. The Queen studied Sarah's face, searching for doubt or false bravery. She found only determination. Very well, Queen Velzara said. You may board my flagship. You may attempt to approach Kirnath. But Dr. Chen, her voice grew heavy. He is weak, in pain, and has never met a human before. Even I cannot predict how he will react. I understand, Sarah said. Chancellor Morton stood. Let the record show that Dr. Sarah Chen of Earth is attempting this voluntarily. We will evacuate all non-essential personnel from this sector as a precaution. As the council adjourned, Dr. Kelmar approached Sarah. Human, I think you're either very brave or very foolish. Probably both. But, he paused, your diagnosis was brilliant. If you somehow survive meeting Kirnath, I'll assist with the surgery. Sarah smiled. Thank you. I'll try not to get vaporized. That evening, Sarah packed a simple bag, her medical tools, some food, and a photo of her old dog, Max. She looked at it for a long moment, remembering all the scared animals she'd helped over the years. Just one more, she whispered to herself. Just one more. Scared patient. Who needs help? The shuttle to Queen Velzara's flagship launched at midnight. Sarah watched the stars pass by, trying not to think about the fact that she was about to meet the galaxy's most dangerous creature. Somewhere ahead in the darkness, Kirnath waited. The Jathiri flagship was enormous. Sarah's shuttle docked in a bay that could have held 20 Earth vessels. Queen Velzara herself waited at the airlock, accompanied by 4 guards in ceremonial armor. Dr. Chen, the Queen greeted. Are you certain about this? Sarah shouldered her small bag. As certain as I can be, Your Majesty. They walked through corridors that pulsed with bioluminescent lighting. Other Jathiri crew members stopped to stare at the human. Some whispered prayers. They all knew what Sarah was attempting. Kirnath is in the main hold, Queen Velzara explained. We've kept him sedated at minimal levels enough to dull the pain, but not enough to fully suppress his awareness. He's been difficult lately. Irritable. He knows something is wrong with him. That's actually good, Sarah said. It means he's still fighting. They reached a massive, sealed door. Warning symbols, in a dozen languages, covered its surface. Through a viewing window, Sarah caught her first real glimpse of Kirnath. He was even more magnificent than the scan suggested. His black scales gleamed despite his illness, and those golden veins seemed to pulse with inner light. But the crystalline growths on his wing were horrifying purple branches that had spread even further since yesterday's scans. Kirnath lay on his side, breathing slowly. His enormous eye was half open, dulled by pain and sedation. He's beautiful, Sarah whispered. Queen Velzara looked surprised. Most people's first reaction to Kirnath was fear. He is my greatest friend, she said softly. We have flown together through nebulas and across battlefields. He has saved my life, more times than I can count. Then let's save his, Sarah said. I'm ready to go in. The Queen's guards protested immediately. Your Majesty, we should at least accompany the human. No, Sarah interrupted gently. It has to be just me. Too many people will seem threatening. I need him to see that I'm alone, and not a danger. Queen Velzara considered this, then nodded. I will watch from here. If anything goes wrong, I will come immediately. The door opened with a hiss. Sarah stepped through, and it sealed behind her. The hold was massive and warm. Heat radiated from Kirnath's body, even in his weakened state. Sarah could hear his breathing, deep, slow, pained. Each exhale carried a faint scent of sulfur and something sweet, like burning honey. She didn't approach directly. Instead, Sarah sat down about 20 meters away, set down her bag, and pulled out her lunch. She unwrapped a sandwich and began eating. Moving slowly and naturally, Kirnath's eye focused on her. His pupil contracted, no longer dulled but alert. Watching, Sarah kept eating, occasionally glancing at the dragon but not staring. Hi there, she said in a normal tone. My name's Sarah. I know you're not feeling well. I'm here to help, but I understand you don't know me yet. That's okay. We can take our time. The dragon didn't move, but his breathing changed slightly. He was listening. You know, Sarah continued, I had a dog once. His name was Max, big German shepherd. When I first found him, he was hurt, got hit by a car. He was scared and in pain, and he tried to bite me when I got close. But I didn't give up on him. Lom. 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 She finished her sandwich and pulled out an apple. The crisp sound of her biting into it echoed in the vast hold. I sat with Max every day, just like this. Eventually, He understood I wasn't going to hurt him. We became best friends. Sarah smiled at the memory. I think you and I could be friends too. But only if you want to. I Myling. 18. 18. For an hour, Sarah just sat there, talking occasionally, but mostly just being present. She didn't try to touch him or approach. She simply existed in his space, calm and unthreatening. Finally, she stood, packed her things, and walked to the door. I'll come back tomorrow. Kirnath. Same time. You rest now. The next day, Sarah returned with her lunch and a portable speaker. She sat in the same spot and played soft music instrumental pieces from Earth, nothing harsh or sudden. Kirnath watched her again. This time, his head lifted slightly. Sarah talked about her work on Earth, about the animals she'd helped. She told him about a lion with a thorn in his paw, a dolphin with a damaged fin, an owl with a broken wing. The owl was tricky, she said. She kept trying to fly even though it hurt her. Sometimes, patients are like that. They fight against the help they need because they're scared. But once she understood I was making the pain go away, she let me work. She even fell asleep during the bandaging. On the third day, Sarah brought something different, a blanket that smelled like the herbs from Earth. She sat closer this time, only 10 meters away. Kirnath shifted, adjusting his position. The crystalline growths on his wing caught the light, and Sarah saw him wince. That hurts, doesn't it? She said softly. I'm sorry you're going through this, but I think I can fix it. I've seen this kind of infection before. It looks scary, but it's treatable. She slowly pulled out her medical scanner, a small, handheld device. This won't hurt. It just lets me see what's happening inside. May I? Kirnath's eye fixed on the device. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, very slightly, his head lowered. Not aggressive. Almost. Permissive. Sarah's heart raced, but she kept her movements slow. She stood and walked forward. Each step careful and deliberate. 5 meters. 3 meters. 1 meter. She was close enough now to feel the heat radiating from his scales. Close enough that one snap of his jaws would end her life. Thank you for trusting me, she whispered, and raised the scanner. Kirnath remained still as she scanned the infected wing. The purple crystals were even worse up close, branching deep into tissue. But Sarah also saw something hopeful. His immune system was trying to fight back. It just needed help. She spent an hour examining him, talking softly the entire time. She explained what she was seeing, what each reading meant, as if he could understand every word. Maybe he could, in his own way. When she finished, Sarah did something that made the watching queen gasp through the viewing window. She reached out and gently touched Kirnath's scales, right next to the infection site. I'm going to help you, she promised. It's going to hurt for a little while during the surgery, but then the pain will stop. Forever. Do you understand? Kirnath's enormous eye studied her. Then, slowly, his head moved a small nod, barely perceptible. But Sarah saw it. And she smiled. Good boy, she said, using the same tone she'd used with every frightened animal she'd ever treated. You're such a good boy. On the 4th day, Sarah brought food raw meat she'd researched as safe for Jathiri dragons. Kirnath was reluctant at first, but hunger and the enticing smell won out. He ate from her hand, careful not to hurt her with his massive teeth. By the 5th day, when Sarah entered the hold, Kirnath lifted his head in greeting. She walked straight to him, sat beside his massive form, and leaned against his warm scales. I think we're ready, she said. Tomorrow, we do the surgery. Your mom will be there, and so will I. It's going to be scary, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Kirnath rumbled a deep sound that vibrated through Sarah's whole body. Not threatening. Almost. Affectionate. Outside, Queen Velzara stood with tears streaming down her face. In 70 years, she'd never seen Kirnoth accept another being like this. "Prepare the medical bay," she told her guards. "Dr. Chen has done the impossible. Tomorrow, we attempt the surgery." The medical bay had been transformed. Every non-essential system was shut down. Emergency containment fields hummed at maximum power around the surgical area. Outside the flagship, the entire sector had been evacuated just in case. Sarah stood in the preparation room, scrubbing her hands and reviewing the procedure one last time. Dr. Kelmar worked beside her, his crystalline fingers moving with practiced efficiency. "I still think this is madness," he said, but his tone was respectful. "However, what you've accomplished these past days is remarkable. I've never seen a war dragon bond with anyone outside their rider." "He knows we're trying to help," Sarah said simply. "That's all any patient needs to understand." Queen Velzara entered, already in surgical garments. "Kirnoth is being brought to the bay now. He's calm, but I can feel his anxiety through our bond. He knows something important is about to happen." Sarah nodded. "Let's go explain everything to him one more time." They entered the main surgical bay. Kirnoth had been moved onto a reinforced platform that could support his massive weight. His golden eyes tracked Sarah immediately, and that deep rumble of recognition vibrated through the room. Sarah approached and placed her hand on his snout. "Hey, big guy. Remember what we talked about? Today we remove the bad crystals. It's going to hurt, but I need you to stay as calm as you can. Your mom will be right here, and so will I. We won't leave you." Kirnoth's warm breath washed over her. His eye closed briefly, then opened to trust. Queen Velzara positioned herself at her dragon's head, speaking softly in the Jathiri language. Her 4 hands stroked his scales in soothing patterns. Sarah examined the surgical field. The crystalline growths had spread even further overnight. They were running out of time. She picked up her first instrument, a specialized laser scalpel, modified for this procedure. "Okay, Kirnoth," she said gently. "We're starting now. Stay with us." The first incision was shallow, exposing the crystalline branches beneath the scales. Kirnoth tensed, but didn't move. Sarah worked carefully, removing the outer growths piece by piece. Each fragment she extracted was immediately placed in a containment field. "He's doing well," Dr. Kelmar reported, monitoring vital signs. Heart rate elevated but stable. Body temperature normal. Sarah continued working, talking to Kirnoth the entire time. "You're doing great. I know it hurts, but you're so brave. Just a little more." 30 minutes passed. Then, 45. Sarah had removed most of the surface crystals and was now working on the deeper structures embedded in the wing membrane. These were more delicate. One wrong move could tear the wing tissue or sever blood vessels. Sweat dripped down Sarah's face. Her hands remained steady, but the pressure was immense. She could feel Kirnoth's muscles tensing under her touch, feel the effort it took for him to remain still despite the pain. Then she reached the deepest growth, a large crystalline mass wrapped around a major blood vessel near the wing joint. "This is the big one," she murmured. "Once this is out, the worst is over." She positioned her tools carefully. The laser would need to cut between the crystal and the vessel a gap of mere millimeters. One slip, and Kirnoth could bleed out. Too much pressure, and the crystal might shatter deeper inside. Sarah took a breath and began the cut. The crystal resisted. It had grown around the vessel like a cage. Sarah adjusted her angle, working slowly, steadily. Almost there. Just a little more. The crystal snapped. A large fragment broke off and drove deeper into the tissue, puncturing through into nerve clusters. Kirnoth's roar shook the entire ship. His body temperature spiked instantly. The monitors screamed warnings. Heat poured off his scales in waves that distorted the air. The metal platform beneath him began to glow red. "Sarah, get back!" Queen Velzara shouted. But Sarah didn't move. She knew what was happening. Kirnath's plasma breath was activating. The heat building in his chest would vent in seconds, turning everything in the bay to ash. His defensive reflexes, triggered by the sudden agony, were beyond anyone's control now. The containment fields flickered under the thermal stress. Dr. Kelmar dove for cover. Guards at the door prepared to seal the bay, to contain the explosion, even if it meant sealing Sarah inside. But Sarah pressed her hand against Kirnath's burning scales. The heat was incredible. Her glove began to smoke. Pain shot up her arm, but she didn't pull away. "Kirnath," she said, her voice cutting through his roar. "Look at me! Look at me!" The dragon's eye, wild with pain and instinct, found her. "I know it hurts," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face from pain and emotion. "I know, and I'm so sorry, but I'm still here. I haven't left you. I won't leave you." The air around Kirnath shimmered with heat. His throat glowed with building plasma. One release, and everyone died. "Please," Sarah whispered, her hand still pressed against those burning scales. "Trust me, just a little longer. Let me finish. Let me take the pain away." Time seemed to stop. Kirnath's massive eye locked onto this tiny being who refused to abandon him, who shared his pain, who asked him to hold on not with commands but with trust. Slowly, impossibly slowly, the glow in his throat dimmed. The temperature dropped degree by degree. The roar faded to a pained whimper. Sarah felt his muscles relax slightly under her burned hand. "That's it," she breathed. "That's my brave boy. Just hold on." She pulled her ruined glove off with her other hand and went back to work. Her burned palm screamed in protest. But she ignored it. She had to finish this. Now. Working faster now, Sarah extracted the broken fragment and cleared the remaining crystal pieces. She applied regenerative gel to the damaged tissue, sealing and healing as she worked. "Almost done," she promised. "Almost done. 5 more minutes. 10. Finally, Sarah removed the last piece of crystal and sealed the final incision. "It's over," she said, swaying on her feet. The dragon's eye closed, exhausted. His breathing steadied. The vital signs stabilized. Sarah took one step back, looked at her burned hand properly for the first time, and felt the room spin. "Someone should catch her," she heard Dr. Kelmar say from very far away. Then Queen Velzara's arms were around her, and everything went dark. Sarah woke to the soft hum of medical equipment and the scent of healing salves. Her right hand was wrapped in bandages that glowed faintly with regenerative nanogel. The pain had faded to a dull ache. She blinked, adjusting to the light. The medical bay was quiet now, peaceful, and sitting beside her bed, in a chair that seemed too small for her large frame, was Queen Velzara. "Your Majesty," Sarah croaked, trying to sit up. "Please, rest," the Queen said gently, helping Sarah adjust her pillows. "You've been unconscious for 3 days." 3 days? Sarah's eyes widened. "Kirnath. Is he? He is completely healed," Queen Velzara said. And her golden eyes shimmered with tears. "The crystals are gone. His wing is regenerating perfectly. Dr. Kelmar says he will make a full recovery." Relief flooded through Sarah. "Thank goodness. I was so worried when that fragment broke." "You should have been worried about yourself," the Queen interrupted. "Your hand was severely burned. Another few seconds, and you would have lost it entirely. Yet you didn't pull away." Sarah looked at her bandaged hand. "I couldn't. If I'd shown fear or backed off, Kirnath would have lost control completely. He needed to know I wasn't abandoning him, even when things went wrong." Queen Velzara was quiet for a long moment. "While you were unconscious, Kirnath refused to leave the area outside this medical bay. He insisted on staying close to you, the way he stays close to me. I thought perhaps it was gratitude. But," she paused, This morning, I felt something through our bond. Something impossible. What do you mean? Sarah asked. Kirnoth has formed a secondary bond with you. In all of Jothiri history, war dragons bond with only one person, their rider. Yet my dragon has chosen to extend his bond to include you. You are now bonded to him, as I am. Sarah stared. But I'm not Jothiri. I'm just a human veterinarian. You are the person who saw him as a patient in need, not a weapon to be feared, Queen Velzara said. You are the person who stayed when everyone else walked away. You are the person who endured pain to ease his suffering. Of course he bonded with you. The door to the medical bay slid open. Dr. Kelmar entered, followed by Chancellor Mortine and several other council delegates. Ah, Dr. Chen, the Chancellor said warmly. Welcome back to consciousness. The entire galaxy has been watching your recovery. The entire galaxy? Sarah repeated, confused. Dr. Kelmar activated a holographic display. News feeds from dozens of worlds scrolled past. Headlines in various languages all told the same story. Human heals. Deadly dragon. Veterinarian's courage saves war beast. Earth doctor forms impossible bond. Your actions have sparked considerable discussion, Chancellor Morton said. Many species are reconsidering their opinions about humanity. You demonstrated something we thought we understood, but perhaps had forgotten that true healing requires more than technology or knowledge. I just did what any doctor would do, Sarah protested. No, Queen Velzara said firmly. Any doctor would have calculated the risks and refused. You saw beyond the risks to the person who needed help. There is a difference. Over the next week, as Sarah's hand healed and she prepared to return to Earth, the political landscape shifted. The Jothiri Empire, impressed by humanity's capacity for compassion, proposed a formal alliance with Earth. Other species followed suit. Trade agreements were drafted. Cultural exchanges planned. Earth, the newest member of the Galactic Council, suddenly found itself with unexpected friends and opportunities. But Sarah cared little for politics. She spent her remaining days aboard the flagship with Kirnath, watching him grow stronger. The dragon's wing healed beautifully, the scales growing back in perfect formation where the crystals had been removed. On her last morning aboard the ship, Sarah visited Kirnath in the main hold one final time. He rumbled happily when he saw her, lowering his massive head so she could reach. I have to go home now, Sarah told him, scratching the scales behind his eye ridge the way she'd learned he liked. Back to Earth, back to my little clinic and my regular patients. Kirnath made a sound, almost a whine. I know, Sarah said softly. I'll miss you too. But you're all healed now. You and your mom can fly together again, explore the stars like you used to. Queen Velzara approached. The bond doesn't break with distance, she explained. Kirnath will always know where you are. Will always come if you call. And she held out a small device. This communicator is keyed to my flagship. If you ever need us, for any reason, we will come. Sarah took the device, blinking back tears. Thank you, Your Majesty, for trusting me, for giving me the chance to help. Thank you, the Queen replied, for teaching an entire galaxy that the strongest bonds are forged not through power, but through trust and compassion. 3 months later, Sarah was back in her clinic on Earth, treating a cat with a sprained paw. The owner chatted nervously while Sarah worked, mentioning something about the news coverage Sarah had received. It wasn't really that big of a deal, Sarah said with a smile, finishing the bandage. Just another patient who needed help. The cat's owner paid and left. Sarah cleaned up the exam room, humming softly. Through the window, she could see the evening sky darkening. Stars beginning to appear. A shadow passed overhead, massive and impossible. Sarah stepped outside and looked up. Kirnath circled her clinic, scales gleaming in the twilight. He was checking on her, she realized. Just a quick visit to make sure his friend was well. She waved and felt a warm pulse through the bond they shared. Affection, gratitude, greeting. Then Kirnath turned and soared back toward the stars, leaving a trail of gold against the purple sky. Sarah watched until he disappeared. Other people emerged from buildings and cars, pointing at the sky, taking pictures, asking questions. A dragon had just flown over their town. It would be the talk of the community for weeks. But Sarah just smiled and went back inside her clinic. She had an appointment in the morning, a dog with a thorn in its paw. Simple work. Honest work. The kind of work that reminded her why she'd become a veterinarian in the first place. Because every creature, no matter how big or small, how dangerous or gentle, deserved someone willing to help when they were hurting. Her communicator beeped. A message from Queen Velzara. Kirnath wanted to visit. I hope we didn't disturb you. Lafwan. Kirnath wanted another lay sign. Kirnath wanted another lay sign. Kirnath wanted. Sarah typed back. Never a disturbance. Give him a scratch behind the horns for me. I'm with the 80. 207. I'm whirling 247. I'm 7 and 23. I'm whirling 200. I'm 7 and 200. I'm 7 and 200. I'm whirling 200. I'm whirling 247. I'm whirling 200. The response came quickly. He says you should visit soon. The nebula near Proxima is beautiful this time of year. Sarah laughed. Maybe she would. Maybe next month, during her vacation time, she'd take the Queen up on that offer. She could bring her camera, see the galaxy properly, fly with Kirnath through the stars. But for now, she had patients waiting, animals who needed care, families who needed reassurance. And really, Sarah thought as she locked up the clinic for the night, that was exactly where she wanted to be. The galaxy had learned something important from a simple veterinarian. That the measure of a civilization isn't in its weapons or technology, but in its willingness to care for those who suffer, regardless of the risks. And sometimes, the smallest act of compassion could change everything.